Good afternoon, Harry Potter fans. I am Dial here with some casting news. So it looks like we have our official cast, or at least our official main cast for the Harry Potter reboot series that is going to be released on HBO Max in 2026, next year. I know I've been very hush hush about the whole Harry Potter news and stuff like that. I just wanted to wait and hear about official stuff coming out before I started talking about all this stuff because there's been a lot of speculation on the cast and stuff like that. So it looks like we have something that's actually concrete and I can actually give my thoughts on this official casting we have here. So you guys already know that I am a Harry Potter fan. I loved Harry Potter since I was a kid. But I wouldn't say that I am a Potterhead. I have not read all the books. I've only read maybe like two or three of them, two and a half of them, because one of them I couldn't finish, which was Order of the Phoenix. I couldn't finish that book. It was so long. The story was so dragged out that I couldn't finish it. But the other ones I read was Sorcerer's Stone and Goblet of Fire, I think. Um, those were the only books I was able to get a hold of, and I was actually more interested in the movies than the books, so I didn't actually go back to read the rest of them. But I may consider doing that before the series comes out. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not that much of a reader anyway. But so when it came to them officially saying that they're going to do this reboot series, um, I was I was of two minds about it. For one thing, yeah, I did think it was a little too soon for them to do a reboot to Harry Potter because the original eight movies are still very, very well known in the pop culture right now, and you still have a lot of people that grew up with all of those movies, and so I don't know. I feel like there should have been a little bit more time that has passed before trying to do a reboot of this, and even with that, I felt like there were other things they could have done in the the old continuity of the eight movies. There's a lot more of the world they could have explored outside of the Harry Potter stuff that they didn't have to go to a reboot. I know they tried to do that with Fantastic Beasts and it didn't work out very well, but like there's other stuff in the lore they could have explored, like I don't know, they could have explored like the original, the founders, the founders of the four houses. They could have done that. They could have done more stuff with Quidditch. They could have done stuff with the original Order of the Phoenix. We could have got some backstory with Voldemort. We could have done other stuff in the world, but also considering the fact that a lot of the cast has passed away from the old movies, and also that Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson didn't want to come back to the franchise. I guess I kind of see why they would want to move on and just do another reboot. I guess because for certain that Warner Brothers is not just going to let this property die. This is one of the most successful franchises of all time and one of the biggest money makers of all time. People still go to the theme parks at Universal and stuff like that, which that's going to be kind of awkward when this series comes out and you still have the theme park rides that are based off of the original movies. But I digress. So yeah, I was skeptical about it, but at the same time, I did want to see them try to do a different version of it because, like, as much as I enjoyed the original movies, from what I hear from the Potter heads and the people that have read all the books and know about the lore, there's a lot of stuff that they cut out from the movies, and there's some portrayals of characters that weren't really accurate to the books either. So with them doing a series, not only will they be able to flesh out more stuff for the books, actually could have a season dedicated to each book and actually have more episodes to flesh out stuff and put in plot points and stories that wasn't in the movies and actually have more of book accurate portrayals of the characters. So that's why I'm actually interested in seeing the reboot at the same time because I'm interested in seeing them do a more book accurate version of Harry Potter and see what people were actually saying were so good in the books that wasn't so good in the movies. So I digress. Like I am someone that, like, I know this is kind of a touchy subject when it comes to casting, but as much as I would grow up with someone being a certain portrayal of the characters for so long, like don't see anything wrong with, having different actors and different versions of a character source material being out there, because that's how you keep the story alive, Like, I don't mind reboots as long as it's done well. Then sure, you could reboot whatever you want. But if they turn out like uninspired, like that's when I start to get irritated with that, like Disney live action remakes. Um, and like I said, if the reboots suck, we can always go back to the original movies, So that's pretty much how I feel about it. But anyway, let's get into this casting. So let's start out with the kids, because that's the stuff that's been happening most recently, and then I'll get to the adults, because I haven't really had a chance to talk about the adults in this show. So they officially casted Harry, Hermione, and Ron. And I know nothing about these kids because, once again, I don't follow kid actors, and it's hard to find, like, history with the kids stuff, because, the kids, their information is not going to be out there like adult stuff, like the adult actor stuff. So, anyway, so our Harry Potter is Dominic McLaughlin. McLaughlin? I probably mispronounced his name really bad, but he looks great. He looks like a little Harry Potter. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I hope his acting is good in here. I'll say this: I did really like Daniel Radcliffe in the first movie, but let's be honest. Like, is his acting like the greatest thing in the world? No, but I'm hoping that Dominic is able to at least match Daniel and maybe surpass him, because the child actors have been improving over the past few years. So I'm hoping that he's gonna knock it out of the park. I'm sure he is, like, because they tested like tens of thousands of kids for this role, and he was the one that beat them all. So that got to tell you something, doesn't it? But yeah, he looks like Harry Potter. Probably the one thing that I know people are going to be complaining about, because they complained about it in the original movies. Unfortunately, Dominic does not have green eyes like Lily Potter. So I'm hoping that maybe Dominic is actually going to be able to put contacts on this time, because Daniel was not able to put on contacts because he had an allergic reaction to it. So I hope they are actually able to put green contacts on him, or at the very least, if because he has blue eyes. If they're going to keep commenting on the fact that he has his mother's eyes, I hope they find an actress that actually has the same eyes as him. Like, both, if they, if he has blue eyes, make sure Lily's eyes have blue eyes, But honestly, that's not really a big deal to me, but I know that's a big deal to a lot of Harry Potter fans. So hopefully the green eyes stuff, they'll be able to do in that. But other than that, he looks like Harry Potter. He looks great. Moving on, we have Ron Weasley, played by Alistair Stout. That's a cool name, by the way. That's a cool British name, or I don't even know where that name originated from, but that's a pretty cool name, Alistair Stout. That's cool. But man, what a ginger! Like, that is some striking red hair that he has. So perfect for Ron Weasley here. Yeah, there's not really too much to say about it. Like, he looks like a little Ron Weasley. The hair, the freckles, all that. Like, the lovable, goofy smile. Yeah, I think he's going to be good. I'm hoping that this time around, Ron is not going to be as much of a doofus as he was in the original movies. Because from what I hear in the books, he's actually he's actually smarter than he is in the book than in the movies. So I hope we're actually able to see a more a smarter Ron, and an actually more actually someone that's not like acting all timid and dumb and all that stuff, because I love Ron from the book. I love Ron from the movies, I'm sorry, but like hearing that like he's actually a lot more of a wiser and smarter character in the books, I'm hoping we actually see that reflected from this show. Okay, and now here comes one of the controversial castings in here. We have Arabella Stanton playing Hermione Granger. And yeah, this is when the internet just erupts with, "Oh my god, you race swapped Hermione! Blah, blah, blah. Why is she melanin? I don't even know what race she is, but like I'm mad that she's not white and blah 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 blah." Okay, so once again, this is coming from someone who is not a Potterhead. Um, but from what I hear, actually, from what I know, because I read Sorcerer's Stone, and then I'm also talking to people that are Potterheads. There's nothing in the Harry Potter books. There's nothing in that first Sorcerer's Stone book or Philosopher's Stone book that says that Hermione is white. All the descriptions that they said in the book is that she has frizzy hair. That's all, that curly frizzy hair. That's all. And I think she said something about like her teeth looked kind of, she had some I don't know, big teeth. I don't know, was it buck teeth? I forgot what it was. It's been a while since I read the books, but like she has like but mostly what she said is like they have the curly frizzy hair. That's it. That does not mean that she's black. That does not mean that she's white. Like, because I know in the Cursed Child play they made Hermione black, which I didn't care about that either. But like, for people that saying that she should have been white, it doesn't sound like that's coming from people that are the book fans. They're only coming from the movies where they just saw Emma Watson as Hermione and that's all that they put in their mind. So no, I'm not even listening to those people. If you guys are really fixated on this race stuff with Hermione, you really need to get a life. You really do. Like, and it doesn't even sound like you're real fans, because please tell me, I need you to give me a quote from the Philosopher's Stone book that says that this character is white or black or any other race, because I don't think there is one. And it's like, you don't even know what race Arabella is. We don't even know what ethnicity she is. Leave this girl alone. You know, it's like, I saw this out of the three main kids, I actually was able to see a little bit of footage from Arabella, because also she's actually starred in the Matilda musical. So she actually has Broadway experience. So that's actually great to have a kid that actually has Broadway experience to be in this role. But anyway, I saw this footage of her test screenings, whatever, of like her auditioning for a certain, I think it was for the show, but it probably was for something else. But she reminds me so much of Emma Watson. She actually acts like a Hermione. Like she's spot on with that. I think she's gonna knock it out of the park. So yeah, I don't care what ethnicity she is. I think she's going to be great. And you know what? I cannot wait to see the chemistry that these three kids have together, because that's one of the things that they were testing for out of all the tens of thousands of kids that they auditioned. The chemistry between these three must have been really great. You know, let's also keep that in mind too, for people that are not liking this casting. She auditioned against tens of thousands of kids, and she's the one that done the best. So that actually has to tell you something. So I'm tired of this, man. And it's a similar thing people were complaining about with the Percy Jackson casting with the Disney Percy Jackson, that they didn't like that they race swapped a whole bunch of people. I didn't care about that either, because the characters in that were really good. The performances are really good. So I didn't care if this person was black or this person was this, whatever. Just as long as it doesn't conflict with the essence of the character itself, do whatever you want. That's all I gotta say about it. Anyway, let's actually talk about the adults. The adult casting here. So we have John Lithgow as Albus Dumbledore. Now this is a surprise to me, because you know, in the old movies, they were strict on having actual like British or UK actors to play all the roles. And John Lithgow is an American actor. So I'm actually surprised they were able to get him to play Dumbledore. And he's a little up there in age. He's in his 80s. So I mean, I know Dumbledore's really old, but it's like I'm hoping that Lithgow is going to stick around for all 7 seasons of this. Hopefully, he keeps himself in good health. But John Lithgow is a fantastic actor, so I don't really see a negative with getting him in this. And he has played British roles before, so like he has experience in that. So yeah, I'm actually good with this. Like, yeah, I think he'll be a good Dumbledore. I think he will live up to Richard Harris and Michael Gambon and Jude Law. Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does with it. Next we have Janet McTeer as McGonagall, and yeah, I think looks pretty good casting too. I know I've seen Janet in other things. I just don't know it. I just don't have it off the top of my head right now. But I know I've seen her in a couple of things. But as far you mean she looks like McGonagall, and I'm sure she's going to do a great job in this role. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about it, but I'm sure she's going to knock it out of the park. She looks like the part, and I know she's a good actress, so I'm good with that. And then we have Nick Frost as Rubeus Hagrid, my favorite character in the Harry Potter franchise. One of my favorite characters. This was also a kind of a surprise too. I did expect for them to get Nick Frost here, but I kind of see it. I do kind of see it. He is kind of short for the role, so I don't know if they're gonna just have him be like his regular height. He's 5'7", and Hagrid is like huge. He's like practically he's like a half giant. So I don't know if they're gonna like morph his height to make him look bigger than what he actually is, or are they just gonna stick with how he is with his actual height? I'm not sure, but yeah, as far as his look, like if you actually see him with a full beard and stuff like that, like he does come off as a Hagrid. So and I do think performance wise, I think he's gonna knock it out of the park. The big ears too. I think that'll be some nice features to add to Hagrid as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at this casting either. Nick Frost, like, yeah, I dig it. That's fine. I'm hoping that he will live up to Robbie Coltrane. Like I'm gonna try my best not to make so many comparisons to the originals. As long as along with the other recasting as well, I'm going to try my best to just judge it on its own merits and try not to compare it too much to the original stuff. But these roles have been so iconic, so it's just going to be very difficult to do that. But I am going to do my very best to judge the show on its own merits. But yeah, I do think Nick Frost would do a pretty decent job as Hagrid. Open to seeing how he looks and how he acts, all that stuff. And then we have Paul Whitehouse as Argus Filch. Sorry. I mean, yeah, that's fine. That's cool. I didn't really care for Filch in the movies. He was just out in the background. There's not really too much to say about it. It's just the creepy guy with the cat that looks over the castle at night and the library, whatever. Like, I don't have too much to say about him. I didn't really care for him that much. So you got Paul Whitehouse. Okay, sure. All right, well, see how he does in this show. Next we have Luke Talon as Quirtus Quirrell. So the guy that wears the head wrap that's hiding the Voldemort tumor on the back of his head. Troll in the dungeon! That guy. I don't have too much to say about him either. I mean, I don't think I've seen him in anything before this, but I mean, he looks like Quirrell. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about him, really. He looks like Quirrell, so hopefully his performance will be really good too. Yeah, I wish I had more to say about him. I really don't. This is probably the person that I know the least about. Like, Yeah, I really don't think I've seen him in anything before this, but you know, he looks like the character. He looks like Quirrell, so hopefully with the whole effect with the Voldemort on the back of his head, I hope that that looks good too. Um, yeah, hopefully be just as good as the effects in the first Sorcerer's Stone movie, Philosopher's Stone movie, because the effect in that actually looked really good in that. So I'm wondering how they're going to pull it off in this version. But yep, that is our Quirrell. Now I saved the most controversial for last. I know there's a lot of thoughts about this one, and yeah, so we have Peppa is a she-do as Severus Snape. Yes, they got a black man to play Snape, and a lot of people. I think this is one that got people the most upset. And I do know from the books that they actually describe Snape how Alan Rickman looked in the original books. So, as far as that, like, I can see why people are upset. I do. Like, you know, like when you read the books and they describe this character looking a certain way, and you know and then they just erase swap him here in this. And one of the biggest things that they said when they announced this show is that they said they're going to do a more book accurate version for this. And when they're casting someone like Peppa as Snape, it seems like it contradicts what they said about them being more book accurate. And then on top of that, I'm hearing people say, you know, because for people that know the story, that Snape does get bullied by Harry's father, and I know with it could easily just like include some racist undertones in that, you know, because James and Snape and Wormtail and Lupin, they're all white. Well, we don't know the castings for who they're gonna cast as James and Sirius and Lupin and Wormtail. We don't know who they're gonna cast in that. For all we know, they could race swap them too, and then we probably won't even be worrying about that, the racist undertones here. But if they decide to cast all of them white, and then Snape is black, and then those four are bullying Snape in the show, easily people are going to point out that, oh, that's the racist undertone. They're just bullying him because he's black and blah 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 blah. Look, like I said, as someone who is not like tied to the books to a hip, I'm not mad at this casting. Am I concerned? Yes. Because like I said, they easily could put those racist undertones in here, but at the same time, if they do, they could do it in a way that actually brings some more nuance to the Snape character. But at the same time, if they do add it, it could just feel like tokenism. It could feel like it's forced in there just so they could be progressive and put in politics that they don't need to. So it could go really good, or it could go really bad. I pray to God that it doesn't go bad. And like I said, what's really going to tell about stuff like that is who they're going to cast as James and James Potter and Sirius Black and Lupin and Wormtail. That's really going to tell what direction they could go into with Snape. But what I will say, and I know the Potterheads are not going to like when I say this, outside of them describing what Snape looks like in the books, does his description actually impact the storytelling and his character? No. Does him being white and having black long hair, does that play a factor in the story and the narrative as a whole? Does that impact how he is as a person? Does it have anything to do with his family, his heritage? Do they actually address that in the books? No. unless there's some Potterheads that could actually tell me something about that, that like him, it is integral for him to look like that within the context in the story, then I don't really have as much of an issue with Snape being casted as a black person. Also, another thing that that a lot of people forget, when it comes to the UK and British stuff. There's a lot of different ethnicities in England and stuff like that. Like it's almost as much of a melting pot as the United States. You see different races in England and stuff like that. You see black people, you see Indian people, and you even saw that in the original movies that like there were other races in there as well. So it's like not everybody has to be white in this show. Like even if Dumbledore ended up being black, like even though that would feel kind of off, there's nothing in the books that said that he has to be white, Like that's not a part of his heritage. That's not like anything like that. So I personally don't have an issue with it. I'm more interested in seeing how his performance is and how he is written in the story, and seeing if the political and racist undertones, if it does help to make him more of an interesting character, or it's just there for tokenism. And once again, I have to say that like they must have chose him for a reason, because from what I hear, he is a really good actor. I haven't seen anything that he's in, but from what I hear, he's a really good actor. So they actually got good talent for this character. So I'm holding my judgment until I see what happens in the show. Now I could be wrong, and it could just be there for tokenism, and they just shoehorn the racist stuff in there and all the other stuff. But as far as just like he has to be white with black hair and he has to look like a ghoul, whatever, like no, I don't think that's necessary for the character of Snape. But like I said, this is just from someone who's not a Potterhead. I could be wrong. But anyway, those are my overall thoughts on the cast of the Harry Potter reboot. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm actually at the same time I'm very skeptical about it. But like from what I'm hearing from people that are from what I hear about who's working on this show, and like once again HBO, they do some really good quality television, man. So I know they're not gonna mess this up. They can't mess this up. They know how important this franchise is. Even though could this feel like a cash grab because the movies they came out not too long after this? Sure. But I think they know how important this franchise is, and I know they don't want to mess it up. And it's already good to hear that J.K. Rowling is not going to have as much creative control as she did with the movies. So that's already a good sign there. So I don't know. I'm hoping for the best, man. I really am. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the casting. What do you guys think about the casting? What do you guys feel about all of them? How do you feel about the casting of Hermione and Snape specifically? Are you guys bothered by them being played by a different race? I hope not. But how do you feel about the rest of the casting? How do you think the show is going to go? Do you think it's a good idea for them to do a remake of this in show form? Do you think they're going to flesh out more stuff from the books that wasn't in the movies? What do you think the tone's going to be? Do you think they're going to try and modernize it too much, or do you think they're going to keep the essence? Let me know your thoughts down below.